In Genesis 42 and 43, we see now the tables have turned. Joseph's brothers, who once sold him off in slavery, is now in charge of their fate. There's famine in the land, not only in Egypt, but in Canaan, and they go down to Egypt to try to buy grain at their father's request. They get there, and Joseph is the one in charge of whether they get the grain or not. He recognizes them. They don't recognize him. It's many years later. He's dressed as an Egyptian, one in power. How would they? He's much older. How would they ever possibly know? As they think he's dead. So Joseph knows they're not spies, but pretends as if that's what he thinks, and says to leave one of them there and go back and bring their youngest brother, for he has not seen this youngest brother yet, and wants to know if the father's still alive, which he is. The men do so, and I'm leaving a lot of details out. Hopefully you'll read the passage, but they come back as they run out of grain, and at first the father doesn't want to send his youngest there because he feels he's already lost Joseph, and he feels he'll lose his next son. But the famine is severe, and they need grain. They have to go and ask for more, and they take Benjamin, the youngest son, back to Joseph and say, here he is, we're not spies, give us our brother Simeon back. And all this to say, and there's more to this story, but we'll stop there for 2 chapters' sake, is, as I said, the tables have now switched. Those who were upset with Joseph being in a position of possible power over them, because remember he had a dream that the 12 stars and all these things are bowing down to him, so they get jealous. So they sell him off into slavery because, one, jealousy, envy. They felt like they needed to put him in his place because he was the younger, trying to rise above them. And I think these are all lessons to learn, right? That we don't make decisions out of envy, out of jealousy, that we don't try to teach people lessons, right? All these things are going to come back on us. And we see this reality here in this story. Now they're at Joseph's mercy, the person that they were really merciless to. And oftentimes we hear in our culture, it's kind of a popular saying, karma, karma comes around and goes around. Now, this is an Eastern notion, which is you'll be reincarnated based off your good and bad, and we shouldn't use that term. It's not a biblical one. But I think the biblical one is you reap what you sow. The American slang of what goes around comes around. It comes back on you. So it's not karma. So we shouldn't, as Christians, use that term. But because there's a lot of Eastern philosophy built into that, of afterlife, and not even afterlife, but reincarnation. We realize there's not reincarnation, right? But there's a truth. The biblical truth is, yes, when you act a certain way, you're going to reap, or your reward for the action is indeed going to come back on you. So in a sense, point people to say, hey, it's not karma, but it's scripture. That the Lord will repay, that as a person acts, so he'll receive. And this is important for us to realize, is that we're never going to get one up on somebody by putting them down. Or we're never going to say, you know what, I'm going to assert my dominance or authority, or connive behind the scenes in order to bring about a solution or something that's going to benefit me, because it's going to come back to us in one way, shape, or form. And at the very least, we're going to stand before God and give an account. So we need to act rightly, we need to act justly, and we need to be truthful, right? All of these things came about because of not being truthful. They lied, they sold, they connived, they manipulated, they asserted their authority. All these things that we see in the world happen, let it not be named amongst us. Let us trust in God. Let us be, if his brothers, the older brothers, if Joseph says, hey, I'm going to be in a place of authority over you, so be it, if that's what the Lord wills. We just ask that you ask justly. Don't be jealous. Don't be, people fall into this trap of comparing themselves to other people's. Leave our lives in the hands of God. If we're at peace and we have what we need and there's good in our life, who cares what position of power, of what position of authority, how much money? These things aren't important. That we are right before God and acting justly and ethically is what's important. We'll see you guys soon.